Hey all, no null here. I was not originally going to make a video about the latest SMG4 episode, but I have thought about the episode a lot and I think I now have enough material to make a video. So the latest episode was indeed related to the new castle construction, as I speculated in my last theory video, but I had not expected it to involve the cast returning to the old castle. I don't think I brought it up in a past video, but I did always wonder if at some point the characters would return there, though admittedly I had expected that if this were to happen, it would be during a proper arc and for this to be for a more significant reason than what happened in the latest episode. Another thing I believe I neglected to mention in my previous theories is the very popular theory that Peach would eventually return, likely as an antagonist who would want revenge on SMG4 and the cast for destroying her castle, as previous episodes showed she is very protective over it. Some people have also suggested she might even take over the new castle once it's finished. I never covered this theory before because I never really believed it would happen, as I just thought that the whole thing with Peach being stuck down the Malice Chasm was a joke, and if it were resolved, it probably would not be significant story or lore-wise. I even partially thought that her being trapped down there was a way of writing her out of the show, to be honest. But in hindsight, considering how throughout this year some seemingly small details have actually turned out to be built up towards something, I probably should have realized that something with Peach was bound to happen eventually. Anyways, so the latest episode may be implying that Peach could be returning at some point soon, likely in an antagonistic role considering she is a literal monster at the moment. The reason I think this is because the status of Peach felt rather unresolved by the end of the episode. Not only does she still remain down the Malice Chasm, as after being bombarded by bombs she fled into the castle and wasn't seen again, but she also had little screen time in the episode, which to me feels a bit strange, and could suggest we will be seeing more of her. Moreover, the map they used with the ruins of the old castle in it seemed like it had quite a bit of work put into it, and as we all know, they don't usually put work into models and maps for them to just be used in one single regular episode. There's also the fact that this episode was released just before a big event on the channel is about to release, which is being hyped up quite a lot, so it is entirely possible that this episode is intended to be built up to the new castle episode story-wise. But I am a bit skeptical about if something really will happen with Peach, as after all this episode may have just been made as a neat callback to the old castle before the new one is finished. Though the lack of any emotional scenes in this episode despite the characters returning to their old home of over a decade did suggest that they will be returning to this area eventually in my opinion. I'll also add here that I am unsure if this episode was pre-planned far in advance or not, because on one hand, returning to the old castle through the Malice Chasm seemed like an obvious thing to eventually write, but on the other hand, this episode actually reminded me a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, specifically when you jump into chasms to explore the depths, an area beneath Hyrule which is just as unsettling as the caverns we see in this episode, so I wonder if this episode idea was inspired by that game, and if so, this could suggest that this episode will have no greater lore significance, as we know that all the significant episodes, arcs and other events on the channel are likely planned out months in advance. As for example, new models take a while to make. As a side note, the reason I'm calling the Demon Goop hole the Malice Chasm is because the big holes in Tears of the Kingdom are called chasms, and due to their similar demonic designs the chasms from that game remind me a lot of the Demon Goop hole. And I call it the Malice Chasm, despite the demonic red stuff from Tears of the Kingdom being called Gloom not Malice, because Peach's boss title card says Malice Transformed Beast. But getting back to the point, if this episode is truly built up towards something, it is probably going to lead into either next week's episode, or into Meme Games 2023, which as I've previously explained, this will likely release in August since the first Meme Games turns a year old in about a week. If Peach returns in the next episode, I do not think that this will be too major of an appearance, as I doubt that the cast would lose the castle to her or anything like that after only just getting it, so I think any conflict with Peach would be resolved within that episode. We also only just had a movie, so nothing too serious should be expected to happen. I do not have any predictions for what may play out if Peach's return is related to Meme Games 2023, But I like this idea because it supports one of my other theories that Marty and Louis will become the antagonists of WotF 2023. As in my previous video, I wondered if Marty's significant appearance in the second most recent episode may have indicated that they would play a role in meme games rather than WotF. But with Peach recently becoming another new candidate for a potential upcoming villain, I think that WotF theory of mine has been strengthened, as Peach feels like a better fit for meme games, while Marty and Louis seem like they'd naturally be suited for WotF considering they're fat Italians. But I suppose we'll just have to wait and see if this entire video was just me overanalyzing something that was never significant, or if I'm actually onto something. Alright, I'm ending the video now.